Hope everyone is having a fantastic day today. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Olivia. Um, what was I gonna say? Me and that routine. We doing it. And I forgot to mention this. February 16th, 2020. Hold on, let me look at my calendar. Let me look at my list. February 16th, 2025 was the day I made my first video. Here it is. February's almost over, but I forgot to mention that last week. But I'm just give flowers to myself. Very proud of myself for sticking my foot out there, trying something that, that fear of being perceived, that fear of being seen, sticking your foot out there, looking crazy by your peers, people that you know. I stuck my foot out there consistently, was posting. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, was nervous the first time I started posting. Was very nervous, stumbling over my words. I still stumble over my words now. Still continue to talk and forget what I'm saying and stumble over my words and stutter, but sticking with it because I see a lot of progress in myself continuing from 2025 when I first started posting February to now. Just a consistency, you're going to get better the more that you try something, the more that you do something. But just giving myself some flowers just now. But something that I wanted to talk about today, I always got something to talk about. But what I wanted to share today is in life, I have noticed, I have realized this, you are going to have to be stuck up. And you may be like, oh, I hate stuck up people. I don't like stuck up people. What do you mean I'm going to have to be stuck up? What I mean stuck up, being stuck up is is describing someone who is arrogant, someone that is very conceited, who thinks they're very superior. It refers to someone who thinks, they above everybody else. They're very unfriendly. They look down on other people because they believe they're more attractive, more intelligent, more important. I'm not talking about that kind of stuck up. What I'm talking about is and I have realized this in myself, you need to be stuck up in your standards. You need to ask yourself, what will you accept? What do you not want to accept? What do you want your life to be? How do I not want my life to be? What will I say no to? What are those kids running for? Anyway, learning to say no is very important. What I mean by being stuck up in your standards, you need to get to that point, and I have realized this in myself, continue to do this daily. Get to that point in your life where you refuse to settle, where you refuse to lower your standards, the standards of yourself and the requirements you have for yourself, for your happiness. And when you refuse to lower your standards, in exchange, you are losing your happiness when you lower your standards. When you do not do this and you uphold your standards, you will receive what's absolutely best for you. You will receive whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you peace, whatever gives you that calm nervous system. When you uphold those standards of who you want to be in life, what you will accept, what you won't accept, it is going to make your life just 100 times better when you stand up for yourself and your standards. When you have high self-respect, when you have strict boundaries, because when you have high self-respect of yourself, it's like strict boundaries are automatic because then you accept things, and then sometimes a lot of stuff you don't accept. When you start having meaningful relationships with people, it's something that I have really noticed that I strive for more now. Doing all those things rather than finding maybe a little bit of comfort or delight in that low vibrational, that low quality, that low energy, that was harmful, toxic relationship things that you used to accept. If your standards are quote unquote high and it allows the majority of people to continue to be in your life, to continue to do whatever they want in your life, they're not high enough. The way people will unfortunately try to humble you, try to degrade you, try to knock you off, or try to make you or indirectly and directly put stuff in your head that you need to settle for less, that your standards are too high, that who do you think you are, or you don't need to have these high standards of yourself, and just will try to tell you those things, it's going to happen. And honestly, I have come to realize when people start telling you that about your standards, about the way that you carry yourself, what you will accept, what you don't accept, what you want your life to be, what you don't want your life to be, I feel like it's simply because they can't get in. The term, being stuck up in your standards is often coming from people who are uncomfortable with your standards, who are uncomfortable with the boundaries that you set, because when you had no boundaries and when you had no standards, they had free reign. They could do whatever they wanted to do. And that's this is even coming from people who are even uncomfortable and are struggling with their own standards, with their own lower standards. They're upset you have high standards in something that they wish they had for themselves. And a lot of people are just upset because they no longer have access to you. And while often being perceived as difficult or having high standards, you being snobbish or that you're stuck up or who do you think you are for the way that you want your life to be and what you won't accept and what you will accept and all this stuff. What I have to do, you got to take a step back and look at it from a developmental perspective. If you get called all these things for for trying to be the best version of yourself you can possibly be, for holding yourself to your own standards, for holding yourself accountable to knowing what you want in life and acting and moving towards it and not accepting anything less than what you deserve. I feel like it's because people, you're defined this way because you refuse to lower your personal bar of standards for quality, of people, of integrity, of respect, love, self-worth. Because I think about this is why I had to ask myself this question. Why are you around everybody? Why are you around everybody, anybody and everybody? Why are you involved with anybody and everybody? Why are you interacting with anybody and everybody? Do you not had to have this talk with myself a while ago? Do you not realize that some people are in your life to show you how not to be? Do you not realize that some people are in your life to show you what not to become? Some people are in your life to show you what your life will look like if you do not develop standards, if you do not hold yourself accountable, just become aware of what you want in life, what you will accept, what you don't accept, what you want your life to be. Some people are in your life to remind you, to be a source of proof of what it looks like if you do not go after it and you do not have high standards. Unfortunately, I have realized this and it's sad. A lot of people want to be bottom feeders. A lot of people are crabs in a barrel, which I'll eventually make a whole nother video about. A lot of people are just toxic of the toxic. Like people, they love conflict, they love deceit, they love lying, they love causing problems in other people's lives. Like I've said this before, we already have a hard life, but there are people out there who will purposely make your life harder. We already have a hard life, but they on purpose make your life harder than it already is. And all of that, I feel like is hard for me to comprehend. And I think, honestly, I do not want to comprehend it because then that means that I'm kind of making sense with it. It's starting to make sense with me. And I'm like, I do not want to understand that low of a behavior. But what I'm trying to say is when you don't have high standards and potentially all that stuff is around you, what you're saying is you're telling me that you're deserving of it. You're telling me this is who you want to be. I had to stop with myself. I said, you going to settle for poor treatment and bad behavior as if this is what you deserve. You are telling me that you are not better than this bottom of the barrel, ugly, toxic behavior. You are surrounding yourself around that as if that's what you deserve in life, as if that's your purpose. It's just to be around that. And the thing is, when you around it, you become it. So you tell me that's what you want in life? That's who you are. And had to have that talk with myself. Hold, look at myself and have that deep discussion with myself and make some changes. Develop higher standards. Some people, unfortunately, they really like the low energy. They like the low vibration, that toxic, bad behavior, and that's where they reside. They reside there. They have for past, present, and future. And you have to leave them there because you are better than that. You deserve better than that. And you have a great future ahead of you if you are stuck up in your standards, if you do not allow what's going on around you and how other people feel about your standards to lower your standards to the point where you're settling. Because I feel like settling is not going to free you. Settling is not going to make you happy whatsoever. But Justin Fret had a good point he made in the video. He was like, you know, you lose a lot of friends. No, he said, I lost a lot of friends because I realized that a lot of them were beneath me. And, people going to be offended by that. You're thinking that I'm talking about your clothes, your car, something materialistic, your looks, your job. I'm not talking about that. He was like, I'm talking about people who operate at a frequency that I do not ever want to meet and do not ever want to reside. Having standards that some people have standards that I do not want to associate with. Because once you start getting around it, like I said, it will start rubbing off on you and then you will become that. There's a lot of people there out there that all they do is gossip, all they do is tear people down, all they do is just act mean, just very nasty, just very toxic. That's beneath me personally. I I want to be better than that. And I do not want to operate that way. And just the thought of someone thinking that I operate that way blows my mind. And it's just something that I had to call myself out on. I'm like, I don't want to operate that way. I don't even want someone to give the doubt, the inkling that I operate that way. And people who move like like the world is all about me, people who lack empathy, people who do not show kindness towards other people who are very egotistical, people who are very proud, people who lack growth, people who lack motivation to grow. It's it's just you gotta get away from that if you want high if when I, excuse me, when I developed high standards, I had to get away from all that. Okay, I didn't want those mentalities, those behaviors, those thought processes to even rub off on me at all, because that was an energy, that was a place, that was a standard that I never wanted to meet, never wanted to become. And it's unfortunate because you can't be around people who do not have the same high standards as you or the high standards that you want to develop. You cannot be your best self around people who have low energy, from people who do not like themselves, having to shrink yourself or having to lower your energy just to fit in. Unfortunately, for some people, it's fun to watch people suffer. It's fun to watch people suffer and comment about it and gossip about it rather than help them. It's fun to watch people's downfall, to scheme about someone's downfall. It's just not a source of entertainment that I want to develop a love for and to develop an enjoyment for. And I realized long ago that I have reached a place in my life that my high standards, the person who I wanted to be, what I would accept in life, what I do not accept in life from myself, and then in turn, well, from myself and my high standards started separating me from the people who needed to stay in my life and the people who didn't need to stay in my life, and especially those who had no interest in developing with me. You know, people I was going to take with me, they didn't want to come with me. That's okay. And what I want to say is, you can be stuck up in your standards and with who you want to be, having high standards of who, like I said, who you want to be in life. You can have that and still be a very kind person, be a loving person, be a generous person, be an empathetic person. It's all about being selective but kind. Extending kindness, generosity, empathy, consideration to yourself, so that in turn, when appropriate within reason, that you it is shown to other people as well. And when I say appropriate within reason, meaning that you cannot continue to pour from your own cup all the time, because then you're not going to have anything, and then eventually you're going to be pouring from an empty cup, overextending yourself when you have nothing to even extend. And sometimes you're just going to have to stop. You're going to have to move on, and you're going to have to stop giving yourself as a source of energy. Me, it is a privilege to have me as a friend. It is a privilege to interact with me. The energy, the love, the investment that I give to people when I consider you in my life is astronomical. And because of that, not everybody deserves it. Not everyone gets access. And that's exactly how it should be. That's how your standards should be working. Your standards need to become a filter, where to the point where you refuse to accept, you refuse to lower the bar, you refuse to settle for mediocrity, for things that aren't going to allow you to grow, just for things that potentially are negative, going to have a negative, um, what is it, connotation, a negative impact, let's just say, on your life, on your relationships. Willing to do all that, even when it's hard. Because if you are willing to just let people do whatever they want to you, invite whoever into your life, you know, they say bad company corrupts good company. Excuse me. Bad company corrupts good character. And when you have low standards and you do not hold yourself to potentially high standards, people are most definitely going to try it with you. And you just got to have high standards of yourself and stick to them, even when it gets hard. And me personally, I am not trying to be superior, but and yet, excuse me, no, but I am not trying to be superior. What I am trying to do is I want to operate from a place of self worth, of self love, self respect, peace. And I do not want to allow anything that of low frequency, low energy, low effort, low anything to disrupt my peace, to disrupt my worth, to disrupt what I deserve out of life, to disrupt me on this journey of being the best person I could possibly be. Because I have come to the realization that you can control the outcomes of your life based on what you tolerate, based on your standards. And the important thing is, I have realized is you need to take responsibility for your life and holding yourself accountable to your life, to your standards, before you start taking them to other people. Because my thing is, if you holding people to standards that you don't even hold yourself to, it's defeating the whole purpose of standards. Because it's like people when they say, oh, I want her to look like this, but you don't even hold yourself to that long laundry list of standards that you want your someone that you potentially want to date or whatever in your life you want to bring into your life. You don't even hold them to the standards that you hold them to standards that you don't even hold yourself to. Just making sure that you do the work and you do have the standards first before you start applying those standards to other people. You know what I mean? And if not, if that doesn't work, if they don't want to continue to be in your life because of your high standards, because of the way that you feel about yourself, you got to leave them where they are. You got to leave them because they do not align with your self-respect, with your worth, with your love, with your life, the outcomes that you want your life to be, and more. Because it could throw off your whole life, your whole outcome of your life, if you do not uphold to your standards and you settle and then you start having regrets. Like I always say, I refuse to have the woulda, coulda, shouldas to haunt me for the rest of my life because I made a decision or I settled for less. I did not stand up or uphold my standards of what I wanted to be in life, and that haunts me for the rest of my life. But I don't know. I felt like that was a lot. I've been talking for 20 minutes, which is crazy. But that is something that I wanted to talk about today. Just be stuck up in your standards. Have high standards and stick to them. Yeah, you're going to get labeled as strict and difficult and all this stuff. But when you stick up to your standards and what makes you happy, what gives you fulfillment, what you gives you peace, you're not going to lose that peace. You're not going to lose that love. You're not going to lose that joy because you're sticking to your standards and what makes you happy. But the moment you get outside of your standards and you lower and you settle for less, potentially you may lose that joy. You may lose that happiness. You may lose that love, that thing that makes you happy in life. And you, like I said, you're going to have the regrets and the woulda, coulda, shouldas are going to haunt you. And it's just not a position that me personally, I want my life to be. I don't want to have regrets because I allowed something that I knew I shouldn't have, or I allowed something, allowed myself to, is it raining? Allowed me to lower my standards kind of thing. But that's just something that I wanted to share today. I hope everyone has a fantastic day today. It's a, it was a beautiful day today. I mean, every day that you wake up is a good day because you could be dead. But I hope everyone has a fantastic day today. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.